Right, I thought I'd carry on where I left off, talking about early experiences touring and buses and all that sort of excitement. I've had my own excitement today and the last few days. God, everything's gone really well with the house, really smooth. Well, other than initially getting in there, but then everything else has gone really smooth. A couple of little issues, but then suddenly there's been mad leaks from one of the bathrooms into the kitchen, which is really frustrating in a freshly decorated kitchen. But what can you do? That's houses for you. I've got it sorted anyway, luckily. Well, I've got it boxed off to a degree that the leak stops, and I know what needs to happen to fix it, but tenants are moving in tomorrow. But I spoke to them and they're understanding, so it's fine. That's all good. But yeah, it's not great, it's not what you need. But anyway, let's get on with talking about what we were talking about. Because I was trying to remember what was our literally the very first experience of getting in the splitter bus and, you know, meeting Graham for the first time and all those sorts of things. And I realised that the very first time was Band on the Wall, when we played at Band on the Wall in Manchester. And I think we only did 5 songs or something, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. It was trying to remember if it was our first ever gig as the music. I think the Christmas party was our first ever gig as the music. And then we supported Stephen Maltmus, I think. And then it was after that, we did this little showcase at Band on the Wall in Manchester. And that was the first time that we met Graham, first time that we properly, sort of got on a splitter bus, the little tour buses, Mercedes Sprinter types. And yeah, that just brought back a lot of good memories of that entire day, really. As I was saying, the excitement of going out and doing something, getting a bus and having a tour manager and all that sort of stuff. It was just, obviously, initially, it was new and exciting and stuff. And as soon as we met Graham, we liked him. He came to the studio, and obviously we loaded stuff into the van and off we went in this van, and we'd never met this bloke before, so but it was really fun getting to know him because he's such a, I hadn't seen him for a long time really, or spoke to him, although he did get involved in the listening party. But it's such a lovely bloke, such a likeable bloke instantly, and ridiculously funny without always trying to be, which made for some, I say awkward moments, but he made me laugh. He made us all laugh. So anyway, the first time we got sort of picked up by him, we were driving away from studio, heading to Manchester, and as I say, back then we were always on parcelage. You know what I mean? So we were sort of sat in this van, going, wouldn't mind. You know what I mean? But we don't know about this bloke. You know what I mean? So one of us just went, do you mind if we, you know what I mean? And Graham turned around and just went, of course not, how are we going to ask you the same thing if you lot minded? Oh no, we don't mind, crack on, do you know what I mean? So, instantly, that got him on our side. Certainly mine anyway, do you know what I mean? It's like, that's fine. So that put us at ease, and that just made for some amazing banter, obviously, just sitting, listening to music in bus, and all banter and stuff like that. But the funniest thing about Graham, I mean, what did Graham do? Graham did lights for the Happy Mondays. So obviously, he'd seen plenty of good times, do you know what I mean? But yeah, tour managing is such a stressful, well, certainly from me looking in anyway, I'd never do it myself, but it's such a stressful job. A lot of responsibility, and there's tons of funny stories about logistical nightmares, people losing passports, all sorts of funny stuff. But anyway, it's a difficult thing. So Graham used to get really stressed out. Don't think we had any major incidents that first day at Band on the Wall, because as I say, it was very stripped down. That, do you know what I mean? It wasn't It wasn't like a big show or anything. We just took, basic gear and, just set up and did 20 minutes or something, 25 minutes. But it were all those, like I say, it were all those little shows we were doing here and there that were, building up our profile. And I don't think it were long after, actually. I don't think it were long after we played Band on the Wall that, well, I suppose I can find out, that we went to the filming of 24-Hour Party People. Obviously the Steve Coogan, Factory Records, Tony Wilson film. Because, we went to the filming in the Hacienda recreation that they built in the industrial estate. Obviously, it wasn't at the Hacienda. Was it even still there at that point? I certainly gutted it. Anyway, we went to that, and that was really exciting. Obviously, again, Graham came to that, because I think we just all bombed over in Splittervan again, didn't we? We did that a lot. There were a couple of times we went out purely for recreational purposes, like the Beechwood Hotel incidents, because there were 2 of those, or there 3. And I'll talk about those at some point, because they were interesting nights, shall we say, to say the least. Interesting. Or mine and my mate Scott's bonfire night party that Graham came to. Yeah, it was mad back. Do you know what I mean? It was just like a huge gang back then that sort of started with us 4 and then just expanded, do you know what I mean? And all these people got involved, and it just made for this huge family. And, it got to the point where normal was being with them. Do you know what I mean? All the crew that you have and you befriend, and, your bandmates and managers, everyone involved. That's where you get your sense of family from, or that's how it worked with me. I'm not saying anything about my family or anything. It's just that obviously you go out in the world and you start finding your own way, and whatever is, and that was my is, if you know what I mean. Sort of being in the band, being on tour, spending time with it, going out for dinner with everyone, and then getting on bus and chatting and doing whatever we were doing. Just really exciting, rolling banter, as you might sort of describe it. Very, very fond memories of the absolute majority of that. What else were I going to talk about? I had something else interesting to talk about. Well, I mean, there's more I can sort of say on Graham and that. I mean, you sort of getting back to the stresses of tour management. It was difficult because Graham would always have problems with his phone, always. And he'd be ringing people up and talking to people, not just about his phone, but about other stuff, and just getting generally more stressed. And then he'd speak to the phone people and end up screaming down phone at phone people. And we're all sat in the dressing room while this is going on, just, trying his best not to laugh. Because he's actually genuinely getting upset, do you know what I mean? Sort of, and then he'd end up throwing his phone at the amount of times he just threw his phone at the wall and it just exploded. It's like, well, it's as final as you can get that, G, do you know what I mean? God, I can understand all those things perfectly well, because there's nothing more frustrating than when stuff starts going wrong and you're dealing with about 5 or 6 things at once that are all going wrong. That's why people get paid a lot of money who look after big companies or whatever, or who are in any form of high-level management. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot of responsibility, and as much as you think, well, yeah, but they're just direct teams. Fair enough, they're direct teams, but it's their head that'll come off if something happens, not the team members. Team members are expendable to a degree anyway, do you know what I mean? They'll move on and sort of whatever, but the management are the ones who get it in the neck when, say if someone does something and it loses someone 300 million quid in a banking system, it's not that person who's going to end up really messed up, is it? It's the management, the man or woman, above that position is going to be the one that goes, oh no, you really sold me a kipper there. Do you know what I mean? So, and can you imagine trying to organise 4 18-year-old lads who were just, you know, like headless chickens. You imagine trying to organise that? I suppose, you know, anyone who can do that deserves an award. Do you know what I mean? I suppose it's like any parent, really, especially if you've got, you know, 2, 3 or 4 children. I don't know. You know what I'm saying anyway. As well as the stresses of being a tour manager and making sure all the logistics are running smooth, you've then got us to look after and make sure we're all right and, you know, getting us fed, dressed and watered effectively every day. Because, you know, that was an issue in some of these places, and that goes into other things about, you know, the sort of venues that you play on your first tours, you know, your Hull Adelphys and things like that, which, you know, I love. Don't get me, I'm not one of these people who were in a band where, you know, you start playing bigger venues and you're like, oh, I never want to play little venues again. Do you know what I mean? It certainly don't work like that for me. The two entirely different things are, you know, little venues versus, you know, your Bridge Spas or your Blackpool Empress Ballrooms, do you know what I mean? Or even your Leeds O2s. You know, I couldn't tell you. I bet the Hull Adelphi is still not there, but I couldn't tell you what the capacity was, man. It was someone's living room. Do you know what I mean? The Hull Adelphi was pretty much someone's living room. I remember when we pulled up outside, it was like, is this the sort of places you play when you're in like a serious band? Do you know what I mean? Like someone's living room. But I tell you what, it's one of my favourite gigs we ever did that. And it was the second night of our first tour. Was the Roadhouse the first night and Hull was the second? I think it was. It was just, you know, the stage. Have I spoke about this? I might have tweeted about it, I don't know. The stage was just a load of milk crates stacked with some, you know, I don't know, some bloody chipboard on top of it or whatever. I don't know what it was. Which were rotten, you know, stinking of beer and God knows what. I can smell that smell now. Do you know what I mean? Back when you could still smoke in those places and beer sticking to the floor and everything else that those places smell of. That's just nostalgia to me. If I could bottle that, do you know what I mean? If you could bottle that, especially how I work with sort of scents and stuff, I can smell it now without even having to be refreshed of its, you know, of the characteristics of it, though, to be fair. But that gig were almost like show and tell on a carpet in a classroom. Do you know what I mean? In terms of, it wasn't really a real stage. It was one. It wasn't even 2 sets of milk crates stacked. I think it were only 1, so the stage was incredibly low, and so people were just right there. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know why, but I've got visions of people sat down. I don't know why though. Maybe that's just what my mind's done in terms of how it felt. Because, like I say, it almost felt like kids on a carpet and show and tell. Do you know what I mean? Like, now this is what we've been doing, making these tunes. Because at that point as well, like, you know, you can get to a point after years and years and years of touring, playing the same tunes. They do lose an element of magic, but you know, you feed off the crowd enough that it's always fun. But that first tour, when we got to unveil this stuff, you know, it's one thing recording demos of it, but actually getting out and unveiling it. And I'll tell you what, as horrible as that little room was, the sound was amazing. The sound on the stage as well. I don't know about out front, who cares? But on the stage, because, you know, as long as the sound's good on the stage and everyone can hear everything, well, certainly for me, if I can hear everything and it sounds good, you just relax. You just relax and you're just like, right, I'm going to play now. There's no, oh God, man, I've got to concentrate. No concentrating, just I'm going to play and enjoy it and get into it. And that's just the best thing about playing, is when you get that. Because as I say, there's plenty of times where, and for me, it's always the dance. Well, because we always open with the dance. So it's when I hit that first note. When I hit that first note and start playing, it's like, yes, or, oh, that doesn't sound very good to me, damn. Or you think, no, I can work with it. But like, Hull Adelphi, I'm going to try and bring some off the top of my head. The Hull Adelphi one, well, there'll be loads, but the ones that really stand out, Hull Adelphi, that La Cigale gig in Paris. Every time we played Brixton, just brilliant rooms where you hit those first notes of the dance and you're like, yes, that sounds right. And so that's when you know you're going to have a good gig. Well, actually, there's 3 stages to that, really, because then Stu's got to come in, and you're like, yeah, I can hear Stu. And then Phil's got to come in. Once Phil comes in with the proper drums, that's make or break for me for a gig. Because once he comes in with everything, I'm either like, yes, sounds perfect, I can hear everything, I don't need to work. Whereas if Phil starts playing and you're like, oh God, can't hear it, or I can't hear it well enough. You know, there's been times where I've had to watch Phil's foot, I've had to watch the air moving inside the kick drum going, do you know what I mean? Because if monitors aren't great, and I'm sure enough people will have seen our gigs where I've turned my head and started screaming at someone or just giving them daggers. And it's never anything personal, is that? And I always apologise afterwards and say, sorry, but I just get so frustrated, you know what I mean? In that moment, I just want it to be right. Not just for me, I want it to be right for the other 3 so that we all have a good gig. And in that moment, my brain just says, he's responsible, or she, although we never had a female monitor engineer, or did we? We might have done, actually. We might have had a female monitor engineer. Not that that's any kind of issue at all, but anyway. You know, it's like, my brain just says, it's your responsibility to make sure I'm not shouting at you, or that someone else isn't shouting at you. You know, there's polite ways of doing things, obviously, but not in that moment they're in. You know, I'm not going to go, oh, hang on, lads. Excuse me, monitor technician, would you mind turning this up for me? Do you know what I mean? If I had that luxury, I'd do it. But when there's you lot all stood out there and we're in the throw of it, do you know what I mean? And you're playing as well, because I'm not very good at a lot how I play. I'm not just strumming chords idly. I can strum chords idly and do whatever. But the way I play, I can't talk and play because it upsets everything. I can't, I lose rhythm and stuff like that, and accents. So my ethos is you tell them quick. Do you know what I mean? And in a way that makes them go, okay, I need to change that. Do you know what I mean? So it's either, any monitor engineer we ever had, I sort of developed signals, do you know what I mean? So I didn't have to say stuff. But, sometimes there's not anyone can do. It's just a nightmare. And in those moments, you've got to watch Phil, watch what he's doing to get the drum beat. And because obviously it's vital that Phil can hear what I'm doing as well. And same for Stu as well. It's same for everyone. And then obviously Rob's in ears. That's the thing you have to understand. Like monitor engineers, they're not just trying to keep one person happy. They've got the ability to do as many mixes as they want and send them wherever they want. So everyone gets their own mix of what they like. Because obviously we don't all want the same things in our mix. I don't want to hear too much of Stu, and I don't want to hear too much of Rob, and I don't want to hear too much of Phil. Because if I've got Rob blaring, I don't need Rob blaring out. Do you know what I mean? Rob's out front, and I can hear enough of that coming back. I don't need Rob's voice blaring out of my monitors because it will mask the things that I'm listening for, like hi-hats, kicks. Do you know what I mean? That's generally what I'm going off, and that'll be what Stu's going off. Do you know what I mean? Like me and Stu, I'm not speaking for Stu, but I'm pretty sure, we both. It doesn't really matter how much of Stu I've got, and it won't really matter to Stu how much of me he's got in terms of being able to play. It will in terms of, this sounds amazing, I can hear everything, but when push comes to shove, which it does a lot, and especially at festivals, when push comes to shove, it's about needs must. Do you know what I mean? And everyone needs the drums. That's what everyone needs. Nice, clear drums. Phil, I don't really know what Phil had a lot of. Probably everything, I don't know. Like I say, everyone's got their own ways of doing mixes and having mixes, but I only ever really used to fuss about me and Phil. I wanted a lot of me. I love hearing myself, just like Stu will love hearing himself. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing worse. There's literally nothing worse than playing what you believe is a powerful song and you hit the notes and it sounds hollow and it feels hollow. There's nothing worse than that. Because you feel like a fraud. Do you know what I mean? It's like, look, I know this stuff has power. Like, so where's it gone? You know, I want it back. And that's generally when, you know, that's going back to the point that I want to hear myself. Every musician wants to hear themselves. You know, we did a gig, like Italy, I don't know whether it's still the same. Italy had a 95 dB noise limit in any club or licensed premises, I think, where bands played after a certain time. Or was it after a certain time? I don't know. They had a 95 dB limit. You know, when you pull a bin along the road, a wheelie bin, you know how loud that is? About 85. So how the hell can you have a live band play under a 95 decibel noise restriction? Was it a good gig? So anyway, yeah, it was a club in Italy. Where in Italy? It was Milan. And I can see the club now, it was big actually. I can't remember the name, no, I can't. The name will be somewhere if I look around long enough. But anyway, it was a big place. You know, 95 dB in a little room. Well, it's proportional, obviously, it don't quite work like that, but still. You know, you should be like 125 dB, 120, 115, 110, 105's fine. Well, it's not fine, but it's better. But 95, you know, so the point is anyway, like I say, if you've got a 95 dB noise limit out front, right, it then totally restricts what you can do on stage. Because if it's too quiet out front, then whatever's happening on stage is going to bleed out there, and that it's going to sound absolutely crazy. Because you can't have your own equipment loud enough. You know, I like to stand in front of my amp and turn it up to a level where if people walk past it, it's an assault. Do you know what I mean? It's an absolute assault. He's walking past the front of my amps. That's why I've got no top end left on my earring. Not that that matters. Who needs top end? But that's the point is that you want to feel that air moving. You want to stand in front of it and feel that air moving, because that's what makes me, certainly. You know, if I'm standing there with an acoustic guitar, you know, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't care then at that point. It's like, as long as I can hear it nice and crisp. But when I'm playing something that's got some balls to it, do you know what I mean? Like a lot of our stuff has like Welcome to the North. You think I want to stand there and play that riff with something that sounds like it's coming out of a Casio keyboard? Do you know what I mean? I don't. And I don't mean that in terms of the characteristic of the noise, more the volume of it. No one's going to get into it. When we did the People video, they made everyone dance with no music. And I remember just going, right, I've got to leave. Because there were a load of my mates as well that, you know, were in video, and I've got to leave here. I cannot, this is making me cringe. This is hurting my soul, is this? There's loads of people dancing. You're asking them to dance and get into it, and you're not putting any music on. Just put some music on. Put the track on. And then they put the track on, but really quietly, so they could still talk to everyone, say, you know, do this, do that. Just don't work, man. You know, you need volume. You don't want to go to a club and pretend the music's loud and think, well, I'll just pretend it's loud enough that I can get into it. Who wants to do that? You only walk out of there and think, I can't hear shit. Do you know what I mean? I'm deaf. That's what you want. You know, when we went to see Left Field, me, Stu, Phil, did Rob go? Did we all go? Went to see Left Field at TNC. The plaster was falling out of the ceiling. You know, that's the kind of noise level you want. You want the plaster falling out, you could see the little spots, and the plaster was falling out of the ceiling with the, you know what I mean, that sub bass that you're going to get with like Left Field. Or like the Prodigy when we played Jersey Live. When we played Jersey Live, I don't know where this is going now, okay. When we played Jersey Live with the Prodigy, like, you know, because they were headlining, so when they were setting up, suddenly, you know, they just brought in all these, there were subs everywhere. You know, everyone else used, you know, the set subs, that were already there, but the Prodigy had their own wall of subs all the way along the front of the stage. And that show was insane. It was like Jersey Live, so I think it's only like 10,000, which obviously for someone like a band like the Prodigy is a small gig, 10,000. Like intimate. But that was brilliant. That they were absolutely amazing, and Keith, God rest his soul, he was absolutely amazing. I remember being absolutely spellbound watching him and listening to him. When he does that spinning round and all the sort of the enigmatic, charismatic presence that he has on stage, and like, you always wonder about a band like that is not reliant, but it's rooted in electronic music. Do you know what I mean? Which sometimes feels like the antithesis of live music. Obviously, it's not. But their show that they put on, just mind blowing. I loved watching the guitarist because for guitar changes, the guitarist takes off his guitar and just throws it about 15, 20 foot. It's a guitar tech. I've never seen it like it. I remember watching him do it and just thinking, oh my God, is this like beautiful black Les Pauls flying through the air? And guitar tech's just like catches it like some sort of, you know what I mean? Like he's catching a baseball. Just things like that. Well, I suppose things like that are what make live music what it is, really. And especially with a group like that with so much power in the tunes. How did we get here? What point were I on? I was talking about noise restrictions and stuff. So anyway, how I got round that, because I thought, all right, well, if I can't have my amp very loud, because it's going to go out front and deafen everyone, because I want to be loud enough, and that's going to get above the PA. So I thought, right, what we'll do is we'll lay my amp on the floor, prop some under it, so it's bent on the floor, slightly firing at me, up towards the roof with the audience there. Do you know what I mean? So I effectively use my own amp as a monitor. So that way I could turn it up and, get a little bit more out of it and feel like I were enjoying it. Because as I say, and I'm sure Stu will be the same, and Rob and everyone, you've got to be able to hear yourself to really get into it, and you've got to hear it in the right way. It's got to sound right, and like I say, there's nothing wrong with doing a show and it just being a nightmare. Fuji, what year? How many times did we do Fuji? Can't remember how many times we did Fuji, but one year in particular, I had an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Oh, God. And you see, when you've flown all that way and all those people are so excited to see you, and I know this was always one of my problems. Is that they don't know, the audience don't know they're enjoying it. They're listening to Rob, they're watching Rob do his stuff. They're into it. They don't know that I can't hear the kick drum quite loud enough or something like that. But that's parcel of the characteristics of my issues in inverted commas. Well, I don't really see them as issues anymore, but you know what I'm saying. Part and parcel of that is it don't matter if the audience don't know. If I know, it really... I ain't flown all that way. I don't like flying. I ain't gone all that way to do a rubbish gig, or do a gig where I get off the stage and think, no, that wasn't good enough. Do you know what I mean? And I've never felt that on anyone else's behalf. I mean, obviously we've had times where we've struggled with things, but, I've never come off stage and thought, you didn't do well enough today. Because obviously that would be a shit thing to think anyway, but... I, like everyone else, want it to be right. And if it's not right, it's failure. Do you know what I mean? And who likes failure? Certainly not me. So yeah, monitors, being able to hear yourself well. And the thing is as well, sound checks. When you do a sound check in a big room, or a little room, it don't matter. When you do a sound check, it sounds a certain way. And you get everything set up, and you do alt monitors, and you think, great, that's going to be fine. It's almost a waste of time, because the acoustics of a room and how they work change so massively as soon as you fill it with people. Do you know what I mean? Obviously. You play in a big room with no one in it, it bounces everywhere. It bounces everywhere, and you think, oh, this is going to be a nightmare. As soon as you put people in, they soak it up, and it's better. So that's one of the things, it's always difficult to keep that at the front of your mind when you're doing sound checks and you're like, oh, God's sake lads, it don't sound good enough. What's wrong? It's like, it's just because there's not enough people in there. So that's something that you learn with experience, is that don't lose your head during sound check if it don't sound quite right, because people coming in will soak up all the reflections that cause the problems. But as I say, it's difficult always to remember that. And Rob used in-ears. I think he still does use in-ears when he's doing stuff. And obviously in-ears are a different thing altogether. So we'd have a mix. I used in-ears for a while as well, didn't I? I don't know why I came out of them, stopped using them. I did though. Can't remember why. Did they used to fall out of my ears? Or like pull the jack out of the little pack or something. I can't remember. But yeah, so that, I'm just talking about monitors really. But what we at, half an hour. I was it to leave it there or go into talking about... No, I'll go into talk. It was just a comment that Diane made yesterday, or whenever it was, after my last video, about me coming up to her and a friend or whatever and asking if they'd seen the big bus. God, the amount of times that used to happen. But let me put it in context. How annoyed would you be if you got home and your house had driven off? Do you know what I mean? Without telling you where it had gone? You'd be annoyed if all your stuff were on it, do you know what I mean? And that was, well, I don't even have to explain that to you. You'd be annoyed if your house drove off. And that's what it is, a tour bus. It's your house. Do you know what I mean? For as long as you're doing what you're doing, that's your house. So, yes, there was plenty of times where I'd go, right, okay, I'm going to get off the bus, go in, have a shower, do everything I need to do, get some food, and I'll go back to the bus because that's home and, I can, parsley or whatever, chill out. Because that's what I do. That's what I did in those, that's what I did in those situations. What else are you going to do? We'll talk about that later, but yeah, so you go in this venue, you have your shower, you're all sorted, and you go, right, back to the bus now. And you go outside and you're like, oh, where's the bus? And then your tour manager says, oh, it's round corner. All right, nice one. Off I go then. Round the corner. I remember one time in America, in Canada. No, sorry, it was Canada. Was it Toronto? No, it wasn't Toronto. Can't remember exactly. I bought a guitar that day. Where was that? I bought that Larrivee 12 string, which is a beast. But yeah. Oh, where were it? Can't remember. But yeah, that one time, I said, where is it? Round the corner. I went looking round the corner. Round the corner, the corners were a long way apart. So it's like, oh, okay, I've got long legs, let's go. I've got my wash bag, walking along with my wash bag. That's what used to really annoy me. I wouldn't mind so much if I was just walking along the street. I don't want to be walking along the street with a wash bag. And I don't really know why, but I just don't want to. It's as simple as that. You're walking along with your wash bag looking like someone who's looking for something desperately. And you walk around the corner and you're like, there's no bus here. Maybe it's round next corner. No, there's no bus there. Maybe it's round next corner. And then, like Diane experience, you go up to people and you're like, don't suppose you've seen like a big bus, have you? And they're like, oh yeah, it's round the corner. That was used to be an issue. And especially, you know what, I mean, going back to the parsley thing or whatever, pre-2007, pre-smoking ban, that wasn't an issue. To the point where we got told off in the BBC studios for repeatedly, in the dressing room. And they kept coming in and going, can you stop doing that, please? You're stinking out the entire building. Oh, sorry, love. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, shut door. And you're like, carry on. Once it's at that point, it's not going to get any worse. And they've already come down and said, can you stop it? You're like, well, if that's worse you're going to do, then no. I'm sorry, but that's how it works. You show me a bit of force, I might think, all right, fair enough, I'll stop. But if you're just going to walk in and politely ask me to stop when it's already at that point, I don't see a point. The damage is already done. no one cares that much, then. So anyway, we did carry on. But what was the point I was making? Blah, 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 blah. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back there now. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back there. Why was I talking about that? Talking about finding the bus and those things. Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Pre-smoking ban. So, yeah, it wasn't an issue before the smoking ban because you do just go in venues and, you know, do what you want, effectively like that. No, especially in venues. Fair enough, in BBC studios, maybe that was a little bit childish, but I'm not being funny. And it might sound, I don't know, I had to do it now. Psychologically, I had to do it. So it was like, well, you point me where I can then, if I can't do it here. And that you know, that caused a lot of issues for me over the years. But regardless, it's something that I had a ridiculously strong compulsion to do. So saying, can you not do that for a bit? That ain't gonna fly. And anyone like me will know that's not. Can you just stop doing that? No. Can you stop breathing? You know what I mean? No. Right, okay. Then you've got some context. That's difficult for people to swallow and for people to understand. But that's why it became a massive issue for me. If, you know, smoking ban, fine, I'll go on bus. But what you have to understand is in a lot of cities and stuff, the bus can't stay outside the venue. You have to drop stuff and get off, and bus goes somewhere else for a day. And then you're in a venue where you can't smoke or do. It's stressful to someone who kind of feels they need to do it. It's stressful, and I've got loads. You know, I could spend a lifetime talking about my exploits, trying to stay level. Do you know what I mean? Well, I'm not being funny. Trying to get what I need, or what I need is certainly needed back then. I don't always like talking about this sort of stuff because well, I'm not really that bothered. I just feel, you know, you feel slightly exposed, don't you? But I'm not ashamed to admit it. The fact that I needed it psychologically, it was my routine. It was what got me through a day, because exploding like we did at the age we did was a lot for my brain to handle. And I found that alleviated all those problems. Simple as that. You know, doing that, for me, with where my ADHD and stuff works, it doesn't put me into any sort of stupor. It levels me out perfectly so that I'm not going at 1,000 miles an hour, so that I can just go and concentrate and focus. I know that's incongruous, and a lot of people just idly presume that the parsley and other things affect people in the same way. You know, it's offensively naive, really. But you can understand why people do have those assumptions that, it makes everyone idle and, apathetic, really. To have apathy toward their own life or life goals. It makes my brain come alive to the extent that my life goals become more achievable, because they're not achievable when I'm running around like a headless chicken. Do you know what I mean? They're achievable when I'm focused and driven. That comes with, well, so, and there's plenty of people who'll tell you the same as well. Is it Lee Childs who writes Jack Reacher? Loves the smoke. Won't even touch a pen. Oh, I'm presuming Times now, but won't even go near writing if he's not caned. Do you know what I mean? No interest in it. Is this video going to end on 40 minutes? If so, I've only got 40 seconds. Right, okay, 40 minutes is long enough, innit? Let's end it there. I've enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed it. I think the best thing to do is just do this and just talk, rather than thinking, what's the structure going to be? What am I going to talk about? What am I going to stay away from? If I just let myself go like this, I'd do one of these every blooming day. Do you know what I mean? But right, I'll leave it there because it's 40 minutes. So as usual, thanks a lot for watching, all those sorts of things. And hopefully I'll speak to you tomorrow. Maybe not tomorrow because obviously I'm handing keys over and all that stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching. Speak to you soon. Bye.